All right, so today I'm going to start with a confession. And the confession is that I'm a scientist. And this little girl actually isn't me, but she might as well be me. I'm a scientist at heart, and it's something that I'm deeply proud of and absolutely unapologetic about. The thing is, though, I think that my mom would have appreciated some apologies out of me for all of my childhood experiments, including burning the varnish off the kitchen table. I'm actually not sure if I apologized for that one, but I do know that my mom still uses that table, and I went to International Science Fair that year, so it's all good in the end. I've always thrived on that sense of exploration and discovery with science. There was never any question about whether or not I would pursue a STEM career. For me, I've always believed at my core that in that intrinsic value of science, in the exploration and discovery of science. So early on, I followed a very well-defined path in science and engineering. I left my home in rural Arkansas, and I went to college and got a degree in chemistry. And I was the first person in my whole family to get a college degree. And then I went on and I got a PhD, and after that I did a postdoctoral fellowship at Los Alamos National Lab. And I believed, because I was on that path and I had all those degrees and the right credentials, that I was on a path to success. Now, as I entered my career, I started paying a lot more attention to the dynamics of teams and people. And of course, these were mostly teams of PhD scientists and engineers. So you can ponder that one for a moment, right? So it was a little bit like watching a bunch of children trying to read each other's minds in most cases. And needless to say, it was an interesting observations for sure. So, I was certainly convinced of the value of science, but I was really interested and intrigued by understanding how ideas were shared and how ideas were distilled. And I was very interested in how some teams were very successful and why some teams were not. And for me in those observations, the how and why always seemed to hinge on people. Leading people, getting the right people, always hinged on people. And so I spent a lot of time thinking about not only how I behaved, but how I would behave and how I would interact with people if I someday became a leader myself. Well, I can tell you what happened, and it wasn't pretty at all. So I did become a leader, and I ended up in my car in the parking lot, crying, bawling my eyes out, sobbing on the phone with my mother, repeating over and over again, I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm a scientist. I want adventure. I want exploration. I want discovery. I need that. And now I need to figure out how I'm going to take all of these people on this journey, this quest with me. And I don't know the first thing about leading people. I was absolutely paralyzed. I was paralyzed by fear, by doubt, by the sheer scale of personal and professional and technical challenges ahead of me, completely paralyzed. And it was at that point in that parking lot where I made a commitment. I made a commitment that not only was I going to continue to observe other people, it's fascinating, but I was going to spend time working on my own behaviors and learning how to lead. So fast forward many years, and my career has taken lots and lots of different turns, and I've been very fortunate, and I've learned a lot of really great stuff. And one of the things that I've learned is that independent of where I've worked, whether it be academia or a national lab, small company or huge corporation, the single biggest differentiator in moving all of those brilliant ideas and promising technology to reality, the single biggest differentiator is the positive, empowering leadership of people. Always. Leading people. Getting the right people engaged. building diverse, collaborative teams of people, inspiring and motivating people, leading people. Now, I know in my own experience, I spent a lot of time honing my own leadership skills. And I spent time working with others and helping them develop their skills. And the impact was real. The impact was absolutely real. Not only did engagement in our teams improve, but the overall technical achievement that we created increased dramatically. The impact is absolutely real. So for me, I have a lot of experience in this area, and my observations absolutely show that the key to success in technical areas, the key to success for technical professionals and technical organizations is actually not about tech. It's not about tech at all. It's not about where you went to school or the number of degrees you have. It's not about your publications, your patents, your citation index. It's not about the number of lines of code you've written. It's not about any of that. All of that is incredibly important. It's important, it's part of your credibility, but it's not the key to success. That missing key, that missing piece is always positive, empowering leadership and positive leadership behaviors. Now, today, I'm on a mission, and I'm on a mission to fill in that missing gap of leadership for other scientists and engineers. More colorfully, I'm on a mission to eliminate shit leadership in tech, to be honest. Now, at present, we have some very significant gaps in leadership in STEM fields. And the headlines from the Harvard Business Review to Nature point out these challenges. And these are challenges, these gaps we see, we feel every day in our careers and in our workplaces. The problem is that we see it, we feel it, but what are we actually doing about it? And almost daily, we're faced with example after example of fallen tech leaders. Fallen leaders that have zero foundation in leadership and absolutely disgusting behaviors that create and contribute to toxic tech cultures. And some have even suggested that the likes of Elizabeth Holmes and Travis Kalanick is just the tip of the iceberg. And I believe that, just the tip of the iceberg. And to me, these headlines infuriate me. They infuriate me and they break my heart at the same time. Because remember, at my core, I'm a scientist and I believe in the intrinsic value of science and the good it can do for the world, right? And I can't bear the thought of lots of great ideas, lots of great technology, and lots of great inspired, innovative STEM professionals that can't move forward simply because we can't figure out how to learn to lead. Shameful, absolutely shameful. Now, I could spend all day sharing horror stories of tech leadership with you, but I've got 18 minutes, not 18 days or 18 hours. Instead, what I want to share is what I believe are three of the most important aspects of leadership in tech fields. Those are people, purpose, and engagement. Now, rather than just talking about these three aspects, I want to illustrate these through a highly regarded scientist, somebody I admire a great deal, and maybe you've never heard of. And that person is J. Robert Oppenheimer. Now, Oppenheimer was the technical director of the Manhattan Project during World War II in Los Alamos, New Mexico. Now, the Manhattan Project was a massive effort undertaken during the war to create our first nuclear weapons. I'm not here to debate nuclear weapons. I'm here to share this example because of the sheer scale of scientific discovery, technical achievement, and engineering advances that happened in an incredibly short period of time, less than 3 years. And there's arguably no other example in our history that rivals the speed and scale of the Manhattan Project. Now, I'm also sharing this example because it's deeply personal, and Oppenheimer is someone that I admire and identify with in many, many ways. Now, Oppenheimer, like me, relished that sense of scientific exploration and discovery and believed in the intrinsic value of science and the good it can bring to the world. And like me, Oppenheimer also struggled significantly with leadership skills in his early days at Los Alamos. Remember that story of the parking lot I shared with you and me hiding in the car? Yeah, that was a parking lot at Los Alamos National Lab. Now, I don't have any evidence that Oppenheimer ever hid in his car and cried, but I did. So, like me, Oppenheimer also understood the importance of leadership, and he was willing to accept advice, accept coaching, and learn to lead. Now, there's three most important aspects of leadership in tech. Again, number one, bringing people together, getting the right people. It's not only important to have diverse teams of people and expertise, you need to have people that are both capable and willing of working together. Now, in Oppenheimer's case, he recognized very early on that he needed highly intelligent scientists with interpersonal skills that were in key leadership positions. He knew that he needed leaders who could demonstrate collaborative behaviors and teamwork, because without that, a project like the Manhattan Project absolutely would not move forward. Number two is creating meaning and purpose. Now, as technical folks, we need to understand how things work. We need to understand the big picture and how we fit in. And in Oppenheimer's case, the war drove the mission, but he had an amazing ability to instill a robust sense of purpose in every single person that worked at the lab, independent of their role. Not only were they going to win the war, they were going to make history and significant scientific discoveries along the way. The third most important aspect is building engagement and breaking down barriers. Technical challenges don't get solved with barriers. As leaders, we need to eliminate barriers rather than create them and build engagement across our entire organization. Now, at the Manhattan Project, an organizational structure did exist, but Oppenheimer worked actively to make sure that silos of knowledge did not form in the organization, and actually instituted a weekly meeting in which all technical progress and details were shared and discussed openly among all technical staff. And many have suggested that it's because of these weekly meetings and the openness of them that technical challenges were raised and addressed very quickly, and the project moved forward as fast as it did. Now, Oppenheimer was no doubt a highly regarded physicist. He was technically competent and highly credible, but that was only one part of the leadership abilities that he demonstrated that contributed to the success of the Manhattan Project. Only one. Now, the Manhattan Project started over 75 years ago, but Oppenheimer's example is one that's incredibly powerful and still extremely relevant today. Now, today, our world faces technical grand challenges that may very well be more immense than even the Manhattan Project. Technical grand challenges that require scientific discovery and technical achievement and engineering advances on significant scale. Challenges like climate change, food and water security, energy. All of these challenges alone, each of them, could quite possibly be the Manhattan Project of our generation. And technical skills alone are not going to solve these challenges. Now, in my journey, I've learned that single biggest differentiator in moving brilliant ideas and technology to reality is the positive, empowering leadership of people. And I don't know about you, but I'm not willing to ignore these challenges. I'm not willing to ignore toxic tech leaders. I'm not willing to ignore toxic tech culture or the gaps in leadership skills in STEM professionals. I'm not willing. I'm not willing to ignore these because I am a scientist at heart, and I can't stand to see ideas, technology, and people squandered because we don't want to learn how to lead. Now, whether you're a scientist, engineer, or tech type, I want you to leave here today being more conscious of your behaviors as a leader. Now, I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to fill in that missing gap. I'm on a mission. Will you come with me?